In 32 BBY, the grand plan of the Sith is about to be set in motion. Darth Maul, the apprentice of the Sith Lord Darth Sidious, was sent by his master to aid the Trade Federation, which was invading the planet of Naboo, in their search of finding the Queen, which had desperately fled the planet. After he traced a signal from a politician on Naboo to the Queen, which was now in the backwater outer rim world of Tatooine, Maul asked his master if he could go to Tatooine to capture the Queen. After locating the Queen under Jedi protection, he tried to engage them, but after a short duel with the Jedi Qui-Gon Jinn, the Queen escaped again back to her planet. After the Jedi and the Queen escaped, they made their way to Coruscant, where Sidious, as Palpatine, manipulated Amidala into calling a vote of no confidence on Chancellor Valorum, prompting a new election where Palpatine was a favorite to win and take over the Republic. Maul, meanwhile, returned to Naboo, where Queen Amidala and the Jedi also returned to in order to fight the Federation occupation force. The Naboo, along with the Gungans who lived in the planet's oceans, led the Federation army into battle away from the capital city. Using the battle as a diversion, the Queen and her Jedi fought to regain control of the city. The battle for the capital reached the Royal Palace, where Maul was waiting for Jinn and Kenobi. The Sith Lord fought the Jedi in the palace hangar, before moving to the generator complex. The duel raged on throughout the generator rooms, with Maul dominating the duel. He did, however, give ground in order to lead the Jedi throughout the complex. Maul separated the Jedi by knocking Kenobi down several levels, and Kenobi was unable to catch up to Maul and Jinn due to laser walls standing in his way. Taking advantage of their separation, Maul fought Jinn alone and eventually stabbed the Jedi Master through the torso, mortally wounding him. When Kenobi finally caught up, the two engaged in a ferocious fight, with Kenobi filled with anger and grief over the death of his master and friend. Although Kenobi chopped Maul's double-bladed lightsaber in half, leaving the Sith Lord with only one blade, Maul disarmed Kenobi and force-pushed him over the edge of the vast reactor shaft. Caught off guard, Kenobi dropped his lightsaber and found himself dangling over the abyss with a small input nozzle. Maul kicked Kenobi's lightsaber into the shaft below him, and as Maul taunted the young Jedi, trying to dislodge him from the wall, Kenobi calmed himself and used the Force to jump up and summon Jinn's lightsaber into his hands. In an instant, Kenobi sliced the blade through Maul's waist, cutting him in half, sending him falling down the shaft. The same day, Sheev Palpatine became Chancellor of the Galactic Republic. Both he and the Jedi believed that Maul had perished on Naboo. However, through his hate and the will to survive, Maul used the Force to grab an air vent as he was tumbling down the reactor shaft, and eventually made it into the trash compactor. Maul's shattered body was dumped onto a junkyard world of Lado Minor, where he lived in the bellows of the planet and had his legs replaced by 6-limbed apparatus that allowed him to walk again. Mother Talzin, the leader of the Night Sisters, who were dark magic force users of Maul's species, knew that he had survived, and during the Clone Wars she told his brother, Savage Opress, that the former Sith Lord could be found in the Outer Rim. Talzin gave Opress a talisman that would help him find Maul, and Opress set out to locate his brother. Opress found Lado Minor and discovered his crazed brother living there, but Maul did not know who Opress was and barely could hold on to his own identity. All that remained of the one-time Sith Lord was lust for revenge against the Jedi. Believing that Morley, the guide that brought Opress to Maul, had served his brother and driven him crazy, Opress killed the Anacondan, and to restore Maul's memories, he took him to Dathomir, where Mother Talzin repaired Maul's mind and gave him a pair of cybernetic legs through an incantation, using parts of separatist droids that were destroyed during the Battle of Dathomir. With his mind restored, Maul set out to seek revenge against Kenobi for defeating him on Naboo, and led the now Jedi Council member to Redonia by slaughtering civilians to draw Kenobi out. Maul and Opress captured Kenobi, but the Jedi was rescued by Asajj Ventress, a former acolyte of Darth Tyrannus and the Dathomir witch who was in command of Opress. Kenobi and Maul engaged in a lightsaber duel for the first time in over a decade, and Maul pressured Kenobi into anger by talking about the way he killed Qui-Gon Jinn. Kenobi was overwhelmed as a result and decided it was best for him and Ventress to escape the ship. Although Kenobi had escaped, Maul knew that the Jedi would be pursuing him, which would play into Maul's hand in his conquest for revenge. The brothers began a rampage across the galaxy, which took them to the Cyblock transfer station in the Cyblock system. After defeating the station's guards, the brothers discovered a credit coffer filled to the brim. Maul demonstrated his martial superiority to his brother by disarming him, earning the latter's respect. From that point, Maul referred to himself as Opress's master, in the same manner in the traditional Sith rule of two dynamic. After stealing the valuables on the space station, the brothers traveled to Florum, where they bribed a squad of pirates into joining them. Although some joined, others questioned Maul and Opress's motives, and were killed as a result. Eventually, the brothers faced off against Kenobi and Adi Gallia, a fellow member of the Jedi High Council, who tracked them there. After a duel that left Gallia dead, Kenobi lured the brothers into the pirate base, where they continued to duel in an isolated passage. When Opress had his arm cut off, Maul used the Force to push Kenobi down the tunnel, causing a cave-in before ordering a retreat. He also discovered that the pirate leader Hondo Ohnaka's forces rejoined the renegade pirates, and likewise Maul's hired group had turned on him. The brothers promptly escaped. Although the effort cost Maul one of his artificial legs, they later barely escaped the doomed ship after one of Ohnaka's pirates shot its engines out with a rocket launcher. Because of this, Hondo believed that Maul and Opress were incinerated in the crash, though Kenobi suspected otherwise. Maul and Opress managed to escape Florum, although they eventually passed out from lack of oxygen in their escape pod. As they floated aimlessly in deep space, they were discovered unconscious and half alive by Death Watch, a Mandalorian terrorist group led by the former governor Pre Vizsla. Discovering Maul's lightsaber, Vizsla decided not to kill them as his lieutenant Bo-Katan Kaiser wished to do so. Vizsla believed that if they were enemies of the Jedi, then they would be his friends. Vizsla and his men returned to their base on Zambar with Maul and Opress in tow. On Zambar, medical droids healed Maul from his wounds and replaced the legs that he had from Mother Talzin with a pair of human mechanical legs that returned him to his previous height. Walking after the surgery was complete, Maul was dazed and only tried to react when he saw the still unconscious Opress next to him, as the droids fitted the wounds that his brother had with a mechanical arm. Vizsla and Bo-Katan entered and began to interrogate Maul, threatening to kill Opress if Maul refused to answer. Maul revealed that they were Sith Lords, which immediately led Vizsla to question him about his links to Count Dooku. Maul angrily stated that he and Opress served no one, and that they were brothers, the true Lords of the Sith. Satisfied, Vizsla asked him of his intentions, and Maul revealed that his plans to seek power and influence to gain his revenge on the Jedi. He also informed the Mandalorians that the Jedi responsible for their troubles was Obi-Wan Kenobi. Having faced Kenobi before, and knowing that the Jedi Master had a close friend of Vizsla's enemy, the Mandalorian Duchess Satine Kaiser, Vizsla ordered the droids to complete the repairs on the brothers. Maul was later taken to Vizsla's shelter and revealed himself as a member of Death Watch, the true Mandalorian warrior faith, which had been rejected by the pacifists who ruled Mandalore. Vizsla also informed Maul of his exile from Mandalore after failing to overthrow the Mandalorian government, and hinted against the fact that the one responsible for their exile was Kenobi. Realizing that they had proposed a common ground and a common enemy, Maul proposed an alliance between the brothers and the Death Watch, claiming that it would be the will of the Force. Bo-Katan refused to join the alliance, and as Maul began to Force choke her, the Mandalorians aimed their weapons at him. He claimed that thanks to their alliance, Mandalore would soon be theirs, and he would dispose of all their enemies, as well as gaining their revenge against Kenobi and Dooku. He then released Bo-Katan, and Vizsla sent him to see Opress, while he put the alliance to a vote among the Mandalorians. Opress emerged from his coma and proceeded to destroy the medical droids with his new mechanical arm as Maul watched. As Maul grew increasingly angry, Maul approached him and tried to calm him down, as he informed him of who they had fallen upon. He insisted that the Mandalorians would be more useful to their plans than pirates ever would be, because the Mandalorians had honor. While Opress rejected this as a weakness, Maul stated that his plans would be better served out by them, and once that they reclaimed Mandalore, they would use its resources to further their own plans, with the Death Watch under their command. Vizsla then arrived and announced the alliance had been accepted by the Death Watch. Maul convinced Pre Vizsla that they needed to recruit the Black Sun so they could build an army, and with that, the alliance proceeded to go to Mustafar to recruit the Black Sun into their army. They were met by Ziton Mojo, who brought the group into a council room. Maul asked the council to join them, but they refused despite Maul giving them a second chance, and on Maul's orders, Opress activated his lightsaber and threw it across the table, decapitating the council and prompting Mojo to form an alliance with Maul's forces. Upon returning to the camp on Zambar, the Pikes also declared their allegiance with the Sith brothers. Next, the alliance traveled to Nal Hutta to convince the Grand Hutt Council to join their group. The Hutts refused to join as they had no credits to buy their allegiance, so Maul and his forces battled the Hutt's enforcers and hired bounty hunters. After defeating the bounty hunters and the guards, they met Aruba the Hutt, who was captured by Bo-Katan and her forces. After the Hutt could only tell them that they could find the other Hutts at Jabba's palace on Tatooine, they killed Aruba and headed to Jabba's palace and besieged it. Overwhelmed by Death Watch, Jabba agreed to join the Shadow Collective. Now with an army under his command, Maul and the Shadow Collective planned to overthrow the government of Duchess Satine on Mandalore. Their goal was to make the Duchess look weak and sending the collective criminals elements to attack the capital city, Sindari, at which time Death Watch would arrive and drive them off. Maul also anticipated and counted on Pre Vizsla and Bo-Katan betraying him, an act which he counted on as part of his own plans. After Death Watch drove the criminals away, Maul's suspicions were confirmed when Opress was arrested. With Maul imprisoned, Death Watch declared themselves the leaders of Mandalore. Maul suspected there would be other political prisoners nearby other than the deposed and imprisoned Satine, who Maul could use to his own ends. The two Sith brothers broke out of their cells and fought to find a new ally, choosing former Prime Minister Almec as a puppet. Almec had been imprisoned by the Duchess on corruption charges. Having fought his way out of prison, Maul stormed into the Mandalorian throne room and challenged Pre Vizsla to an honorable death match, knowing the winner would gain the allegiance of Death Watch and become the new leader. After a long and spectacular duel, Maul overpowered Pre Vizsla and beheaded him with his own weapon, the Darksaber. The ancient Mandalorians had stolen from the Jedi, which Maul used to claim as his own. However, Maul's victory split the Death Watch in two, with Bo-Katan and her forces refusing to pledge loyalty to Darth Maul. The other half submitted to Maul's rule, while Almec was reinstated as Prime Minister, albeit with Maul as the true power on Mandalore. Shortly after he retook Mandalore, Maul learned that the Duchess had tried to escape from prison and transmitted a distress call to the Jedi. Having learned of Kenobi's old friendship and relationship with Kaiser, Maul realized that she could serve as bait for his plan and the perfect tool for his revenge against the Jedi Master. As Mandalore was technically neutral in the Clone Wars, Maul knew that Kenobi could not receive an official sanction from the Jedi Council for a rescue mission. As such, he predicted that Kenobi would mount his rescue mission alone. After Kenobi infiltrated the palace and liberated his friend, Maul and the Mandalorian forces chased the two of them all the way to Kenobi's ship, the Twilight. The Mandalorians fired missiles at the ship and crippled it, forcing Kenobi and Kaiser to abandon the ship before it was destroyed. Although dazed from his crash, Kenobi recognized Maul and Opress and attacked them, but Maul disarmed him and ordered his forces to bring Kenobi and the Duchess to the palace. In the throne room, Maul taunted Kenobi to give in to the dark side, all the while holding Kaiser in a force grip. Kenobi refused and told Maul that he had been to the Sith Lord's village on Dathomir. Kenobi expressed in his belief that it had not been Maul's decision to join the dark side, but rather the Night Sisters who had forced it upon him. This comment struck a nerve, angering Maul and causing him to lash out. He reminded Kenobi that it was the Jedi Master who truly made Maul suffer for almost 10 years, and it was time for Kenobi to share in his agony. At that moment, Maul activated the Darksaber and stabbed it through the Duchess's chest. Kaiser died in Kenobi's arms before Maul ordered that Kenobi be taken to prison to contemplate his loss. Kenobi later escaped with the help of Bo-Katan, who revealed herself to be the Duchess's sister. As Bo-Katan and her Night Owls fought Maul's Mandalorian super commandos, bringing civil war to Mandalore, Darth Sidious arrived at the royal palace, having sensed that Maul was going stronger in the Force and had become a rival. As Palpatine, Sidious learned from Kenobi and Skywalker that Maul was alive. When Sidious arrived, Maul sensed his old master's presence and prepared to face him. Maul claimed that he had taken Mandalore and built an army in the hopes of becoming Sidious's apprentice once more, but the Dark Lord saw through Maul's deception and attacked the brothers, demonstrating his superior power through Force attacks. After Sidious released the duo from a Force grip, all three drew their weapons and began to duel. At first the duel was well matched, but Sidious's overwhelming power ultimately proved too much for them, and after a fight, he managed to stun Maul by force pushing him into a wall before taking Opress on alone. Maul regained consciousness just in time to see Opress be fatally impaled by Sidious's blades and rush to his brother's side. In his final moments, Savage Opress expressed his regret and that he failed his brother as an apprentice. Sidious was amused and reminded Maul that there could only be two Sith, and that he had been replaced. Enraged, Maul lit both his own lightsaber and the Darksaber and attacked his former master. Maul held his own better than Opress, but he was ultimately outclassed by more experience, and the skilled Dark Lord of the Sith disarmed him. Sidious telekinetically assaulted Maul multiple times, severely weakening him. Maul pleaded for mercy, but Sidious responded by saying that in the Sith there was no mercy, and then he began to statistically torture him with blasts of Force lightning. The Sith Lord revealed that he had no intention of killing his former apprentice, and that he still had uses for Maul. He wanted to use Maul to draw Mother Talzin out into the open so that she could be defeated, though he did not reveal this plan to Maul. After the duel in Mandalore, Sidious took Maul as his prisoner and brought him to the remote world of Stegani Prime, where the Confederacy of Independent Systems operated the Spire, a prison fortress in the mountains. On Almec's orders, Sidious's vessel was pursued by Maul's Death Watch forces, with the intention of rescuing their captive leader. Once he was in prison, Maul was subject to torture by the hands of the Sith, as Sidious reminded Maul that he still had plans for his former apprentice. The two were interrupted by Count Dooku, whose arrival angered Maul. Dooku returned to Maul after conspiring with Sidious with orders from the Dark Lord to learn more about the Shadow Collective and the names of Maul's associates. Dooku interrogated his predecessor, electrifying him in an attempt to find information he was seeking. Maul resisted the torture and refused to give up any information. After Dooku left, Rook Kast and Gar Saxon of Death Watch attacked the prison and rescued their captive leader. The Mandalorians blew a hole in the walls of Maul's cell, and together they rappelled down the mountain and escaped aboard a Death Watch ship. Unknown to Maul and the Death Watch, the Sith intended for Maul to escape so they could lead him to Mother Talzin. Maul and the Death Watch regrouped with more other forces on Zambar. After his arrival, Maul spoke to Prime Minister Almec via hologram, and the Prime Minister told Maul that the prison break was repayment for when Maul released Almec from prison. Once again in command of his forces, Maul reclaimed his Darksaber and promised the Mandalorians that the war that they longed for was at hand. Soon thereafter, Separatist forces under the command of General Grievous reached Zambar. General Grievous launched all of his forces against Death Watch, with both sides suffering heavy losses. During the battle, Maul destroyed 4 of General Grievous's magma guards and attacked Grievous himself. Despite Maul's obvious power, General Grievous sent him back with a kick during their blade lock. With most of their forces in ruins, Maul ordered his warriors to retreat. Grievous allowed Maul to escape per Dooku's orders, hoping that Maul would seek Mother Talzin for help. As Dooku predicted, Maul contacted Mother Talzin after leaving Zambar, calling out to her through the Force for guidance. She appeared to him from afar in a cloud of smoke, and he informed her of his escape from prison and the defeat on Zambar. Talzin anticipated that Sidious hoped to lure her into a trap, so she ordered Maul to go to Ord Mantell, where the Black Sun had a base of operations. Once there, Talzin wanted him to gather his forces for another battle against the Separatists, this time to lure Dooku and Grievous into a trap and capture them, which Talzin believed that Sidious would not expect. Talzin herself did not go to Ord Mantell, as she knew she was a target for the Sith Lords. Maul arrived on Ord Mantell and conspired with his Shadow Collective allies, including Zaitan Mojo, a Black Sun, and Fift of the Pike Syndicate. He informed that the battle would not take place against the Separatists, who were being lured to Ord Mantell thinking they would capture Maul. Despite some reservations from his allies, Maul was confident that his plan would succeed, and that they could trap the 2 Separatist leaders. Maul and his allies quickly planned their attack against the Separatists, which included luring the droid army to a specific point on the Black Sun-controlled territory so the Shadow Collective could attack them. As the Collective prepared for battle, a team of Night Brothers warriors, led by Brother Viscus, arrived after having been sent from Dathomir by Mother Talzin to reinforce Maul's army. While Maul greeted his fellow Night Brothers, the Separatists arrived in orbit and attacked, using their fleet to bombard the surface of Ord Mantell. Maul immediately ordered his forces to carry out their assault, while the Night Brothers were to wait in the command center for instructions. Maul, meanwhile, made his way to Mandalorian warships, which he and the Death Watch forces would use to assault the Separatist fleet in orbit. Maul arrived in orbit while the Separatists began landing their troops, as well as Count Dooku, on the planet, quickly overwhelming the Shadow Collective army. Maul's ships attacked General Grievous's command vessel before attaching itself to the hull of the Separatist ship, so Maul and his forces could board and make their way to the bridge. Once there, Maul and Death Watch eliminated the battle droids defending the cyborg general, and Maul subdued Grievous and gave him a choice: disable the signal powering the droids on the surface or die. Grievous begrudgingly disabled the signal and was taken into custody. Dooku, who engaged and killed the Night Brothers in battle, was captured by the Shadow Collective forces on the surface, while the disarmed battle droids were eliminated. After the battle, Maul contacted Mother Talzin once again to inform her of what happened on Ord Mantell. Talzin promised Maul that Dooku and Grievous in custody, they would capture Sidious as well and gain their revenge against them. Maul and his forces cleared off of Ord Mantell, leaving the little trace that they were there, and made their way to Vizsla Keep, a Mandalorian supply outpost. From the outpost, Maul contacted Darth Sidious, informing him of the capture of Dooku and Grievous, claiming that he had no further use for them. Sidious told Maul to kill them, but the former Sith Lord had other plans. Grievous was locked in the brig, while Maul tempted Dooku to join him. They both were betrayed by Sidious, so Maul suggested that he and Dooku could be neutral allies. Dooku did not believe that Sidious could be challenged and claimed that he did not think they should ally with Maul and Mother Talzin, the latter of whom tried to kill Dooku. Talzin herself appeared using Night Sister magic and told the story of how she was once an ally of Sidious, how she was also betrayed and Sidious took Maul from her, and how Sidious was already seeking the replacement for Dooku. Neither Talzin or Maul believed that Dooku would sincerely ally with them, and simply wanted to ensure that he could be taken to Dathomir. As they spoke, a Jedi-led Republic assault team attacked the supply outposts. The Jedi, including Mace Windu and Obi-Wan Kenobi, had tracked the Shadow Collective from Ord Mantell. With both of their lives at stake, Dooku forged an alliance with Maul, and Grievous escaped in the chaos using an escape pod. Maul and Dooku engaged the Jedi in a lightsaber duel. An explosive knocked the two Jedi incapacitated, and the two Sith Lords were able to escape. Having fled the outpost, Maul and his followers made their way to Dathomir. While en route, Maul was contacted by Mojo and the Pikes, who grew concerned that Maul's vendetta was causing the Shadow Collective plans to fail. Maul assured them that they would be paid and that Sidious would die, allowing the galaxy to be controlled by the Shadow Collective. To ensure loyalty, Maul ordered Saxon to keep the Pikes and Black Sun in line. He also revealed to Dooku that he knew the Sith Lord was not an ally, and that Sidious had ordered his apprentice to forge an alliance with Maul. Once on Dathomir, Maul was greeted by Brother Viscus, who survived the fight with Dooku on Ord Mantell. The Night Brother told Maul that he was ready for the next step of their plan, so Dooku was taken before Mother Talzin, who appeared before them in a cloud of smoke. She unleashed her magic upon the Sith Lord, using it to draw Dooku's life force so she could physically manifest herself again. Talzin's physical return required a sacrifice. They had chosen Dooku for that purpose. They were interrupted by an explosion ripping through the area, and the arrival of Grievous and Sidious. Sidious reminded his former apprentice that there was only one plan that mattered: Sidious's. The arrival of the Dark Lord and Grievous led to a lightsaber duel, one which Talzin joined after she took control of Dooku's body. Talzin fought Sidious while Maul fought the cyborg general, and Sidious quickly gained the advantage over the Dathomir witch. Sidious bombarded Talzin with force lightning, and the witch released Dooku and appeared in physical form once more. Maul, meanwhile, force-pushed Grievous out of the opening that the explosion created. Once Sidious attacked her with a barrage of lightning, Maul pleaded for his mother to use his own life force to gain more powerful, but Talzin demanded that he retreat, and that he had held off the Dark Lord's attack. The witch used her power to toss Maul from the fray, and he was dragged away by Death Watch forces. As they fled, Maul watched as Grievous returned to faithfully stab Talzin with his lightsabers. Maul fled from Dathomir, which was being attacked by Separatists. The Shadow Collective, meanwhile, had also been defeated by Separatist forces. In Sidious's eyes, despite Maul's escape, the former Sith Lord had been eliminated as a rival and to the future Sith rule of the galaxy. Maul and other parts of his loyal forces would eventually return to Mandalore, where they remained in hiding for a short time. The Pike Syndicate and Black Sun also eventually rejoined the Shadow Collective at some point. Maul also forged ties with criminal organization Crimson Dawn led by Drayden Vosk. He continued to rule his operation, one part of which involved the transportation of large shipments of spice by the Pikes. After this, Maul devised a plan that allows Bo-Katan Kaiser to leave the fighting in Mandalore to search for help from the Republic, and hopefully bring the Jedi Knights Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker, so that he can kill Skywalker because of the vision that he had that Skywalker is to become his old master's new apprentice to fulfill the grand plan of the Sith and take over the galaxy. But by killing Skywalker, before he can be turned, Maul ruins his master's grand plan. This plan by Maul leads to the siege of Mandalore. Alright, that's where this video is going to end. Primarily because this video was made to bridge the Phantom Menace all the way to the Siege of Mandalore. So if you didn't know or was wondering how Maul could possibly be alive in this new season, even though he did get brought back about 5 years ago, and he probably was heavily marketed back then. But just in case you didn't know or you've forgotten, this is what this video is for, to bridge the Phantom Menace all the way to the Siege of Mandalore. And if you want to learn what happened in the Siege of the Mandalore, maybe after the fact, maybe after this video comes out, you can go to the playlists on my channel to find the Siege of Mandalore breakdowns, and I do a long summary for every episode. This video is really long. Right now it's at 25 minutes at the time of finishing all my voiceover. So thank you for watching all the way to the end if you did. If you have made it to the end, please comment the 332nd Battalion, which is Ahsoka's battalion in the new arc of the Clone Wars. And there might not be another lore video coming out this week, just depends on how long it takes to edit this one together. But I still have confidence I could probably squeeze out a video by the end. If not, I'll get back to my normal schedule next week. Thank you for staying to this end of this video. It would be greatly appreciated if you could share this video, subscribe, and like, because it's the longest video I have to date. And until next time, may the Force be with you.